One of the hardest things, do you mind? Do you mind? One of the hardest things to grasp is how to make change and flow a part of your everyday routine. And I keep saying this is the key to being successful. But what does that look like? Well, for those of you that don't know me, hi, my name is Kat, and about a year ago, I quit my corporate job so that way I could find a more authentic and fulfilling lifestyle. So I guess the major question here is, how do you create stability while transitioning to a different phase? Stability. Well, first off, I think it's important to define stability. I think traditionally, stability means that you have a house, you have money, you have a family, and you're in one spot. But I think that kind of goes against quite literally everything that I talk about with successful but I think that goes against kind of everything that I talk about as far as understanding how to ebb and flow. It feels very structured, at least to me. I think what I have found stability to be is emotional stability and a regulated nervous system. It's me understanding that I am good internally. Nothing outside of me matters, but internally, if I can keep my mental health good, then I am going to be fine. That is me being stable, because everything around me is going to consistently change. And if I am stable within, I am able to deal with all of those external changes. It's the concept that everything else is secondary. The self is first. Stability is in the self. Everything else is secondary. Once you understand that, once you have defined stability, based on that stability, the goals that I create, and this is still something that I'm kind of trying to work out and like how to properly articulate this, but it's goals surrounded around feelings. And that's not to say that when you're creating goals that you shouldn't use numbers, because quite frankly, you do need numbers. You need to understand, is this a daily activity, a weekly activity? How many am I doing per day or per week? I do think that numbers matter. I think they are just a tool though. And I think that's kind of how I want to try and explain things, is when things are tools and when things are the actual thing. Like, this is where I'm lacking a better word, but the feeling that you get from it, the quality that you get from it, not necessarily just cranking out quantity and making sure you hit numbers. The idea is you want, so I'm a writer, right? If I'm going to write, I'm going to try and write majority of days, right? So that way I can get into the habit of doing it. But I also need to understand how this is making me feel. Because at the end of the day, if writing is not making me happy, why am I still doing it majority of the days, right? That's where we have to actually start looking at the feeling of it and being like, all right, hey, why does this feel like a daunting task? Why is this not what I want to do? Is it a blockage? Is it that I'm being too strict with it and it's no longer bringing me joy? Is this my opportunity to redirect myself into something different? Is it the type of writing that I'm doing? What is the blocker behind me not wanting to do this majority of days anymore? It's the concept of, yes, you want to do it majority of the days, but not focusing on actually hitting the numbers per se, but hitting the feeling that you're aiming to get from doing it all of those days. So right now, YouTube, for example, I want to do it daily. I want to do it daily, and I know that there's a blocker there. So I know that there is going to be something in me telling me, hey, you shouldn't do this. And that's because I'm not comfortable. So the point of this is not for me to actually do it daily. It's for me to get comfortable and to be experimenting with what I'm doing to make me feel more comfortable. And the way that I'm tracking that goal is, all right, by the end of, say, 30 days, am I more comfortable doing long form content on camera? Is the feeling what I want the feeling to be when I film this? Am I actually getting a lot more joy out of this? Because now the perceived blocker is gone, because truly it was just a lack of experience that was the issue. But in this, I think another thing about creating stability and using feelings as goals, I think again, it goes back to the self and what you're kind of doing with your body. Your goals should be focused around, all right, how am I feeling my day, and how are those things making my body feel? If I am overworked and I feel tired constantly, I'm doing something wrong. If I go to a workout, I need to understand, how does that workout actually make me feel? And not in a sense of, oh, that was such a hard workout, but I feel great after. If I am overly exhausted after that workout, that doesn't mean it's a bad workout, but it's an understanding that maybe that workout doesn't need to be done every single day. Because the point is not to put my body into, it's the concept of, people sometimes overwork their body so that way they can avoid feelings. So if the only thing that you're doing is lifting really hard to get out your frustrations, but you're only doing it so that way your body is so tired that you don't have the capacity to feel, you're doing something wrong. You still should be working out, but you don't need to be doing that workout. You should be mixing in other things so that way you still have the ability to process your emotions. You should be going to sound baths every week, or figuring out different ways to relax, whatever works for you, but just like sitting in your own energy, meditating, those types of things, and getting into, how does that make me feel? Is this regulating my nervous system? Is this bringing me back to a calm state? That's the type of goals that you should be focusing on, is the feeling that it's going to bring you back to. Another thing about this is frequency. So personally, I have found for me that monthly and yearly goals work best. Now, that doesn't mean that I am not tracking on a daily basis. Because again, it kind of goes back to what I was talking about with YouTube, right? So I'm going to do this on a daily basis for 1 month. But the goal is a monthly goal, because my goal is to do it daily for a month. When we're doing this, and I hope that you can see to some degree the difference in the videos that I make, because I'm kind of looking at, 1, how did filming make me feel? 2, did I feel like I was organized or not? 3, am I approaching this situation in the way that I should be? Like, honestly, is it helpful for me to actually be addressing other people, or should this be more of a video vlog style where you can just see me almost doing like Dear Diary moments and me just recounting things and almost journaling out loud? Is that what actually would make more sense for what I'm doing? It's going through all of these things and trying all of these different things to see what actually makes me comfortable. Because at the end of the day, my whole point about everything is you should be doing it for you. So I'm going to have to take a look at my content, see what makes me the most comfortable to film, what makes me enjoy filming the most, how do I actually like articulating my story, like what fits for me. So it's analyzing on a daily basis, but only having monthly goals, and then just taking that chunk and seeing what happens. Same thing on a yearly scale, because I just feel like so much more can happen in a year, and I think it's a really good thing to look back at a full year's worth of work. It's like a full chapter, if that makes sense. But the mindset that I need you to get into for the in-between phase is that everything is an experiment. If you think about what I was doing with YouTube, apply that to quite literally every aspect of my life. Right now, I'm trying to get off caffeine. What does that look like for me? That means, okay, you're not allowed to go to Starbucks anymore. Okay, what happens there? Then you want to wean off by you just making cold brew at home. Okay, cool. You get to go to a coffee shop maybe every once in a while. But it's an interesting process of like, okay, how do I feel? Is getting off caffeine actually helpful? And I think for the most part, it has been. I think it's also understanding how it's affecting my body. Am I more tired? Am I more awake? And understanding what that process is going to feel like coming off of caffeine after having drank it almost every single day for probably like 15 years. I shit you not, 15 years. What is that like? I'm also experimenting with social media, and in the sense of, what am I not supposed to be consuming? I took Instagram off of my phone. I took LinkedIn off of my phone. I put parental controls onto my phone so that way I can't get onto my apps between 8 p.m. and 8 a.m. And it's just kind of like twisting and turning and figuring out, all right, if my goal is to consume less and create more, what does that path look like for me? And experimenting a little bit at a time. So taking something away, cool, great. Now that I'm not going after that app anymore, what do I do instead? And that's when you start getting into, all right, cool, mindless creation. All of this ties into my TikToks that I make too. So if you're not following me on TikTok, feel free to go there too, because I have some interesting things to say. But it's the concept that everything is just one large experiment. And that's going to make it so much more fun because you're just testing things out. You're doing and reviewing. That's the mindset that you need to be in, is do and review, because that's where you want to be investing your energy. At the end of the day, kind of like I said in a previous video, is outcomes don't matter. It's the journey. So when you start to almost gamify the journey or find fun in the journey, that's when you are going to enjoy the in-between so much more. And when you're enjoying the in-between, you're going to get to that outcome so much faster and in a much better mind state, or in a much better state of mind. So what I'm putting my energy towards is choosing like 2 or 3 rather large goals and experimenting with how does my daily habits fit into those major 3 goals, and how can I go about doing those 3. So at the end of the day, my biggest goal at this point, I think, is to create a better society. And that seems like a very broad and egregious goal, but it's true. At the end of the day, looking back at my whole journey of this past year, it's just me looking at how society has completely failed me and how much I realize it's failed other people too. Like, I can look around and I can see a lot of the same issues that I had in other people. And that makes me sad because not everyone is either to a sad enough point to fix it or is even aware of how much better their life could be. And I'm sure that there was some soul looking at me whenever I was in my sad phase, just mindlessly going through life and being like, oh my God, that poor girl. Like, that's quite literally kind of how I think about it when I look back on it. I'm like, I feel so sad for me because I can't believe that I ever thought that I deserved that. I can't believe that was a life that I thought I should be living. Knowing that's my biggest goal, I'm using 2 modes of communication to be able to try to get there. One of them is YouTube/TikTok. It's like figuring out how to use social media and a platform to actually start larger conversations with the rest of society, with the people surrounding me. It's understanding how to actually build a community, which I think we greatly lack in the United States specifically. Then on top of that, I am writing a book. And I think this book is going to be really, really fucking cool. I think a lot of people are going to relate to what I'm saying. I think they're going to find it interesting. But more importantly, I think this book is going to be very healing for me. It's going to be a great way for me to process my own emotions. And that makes me really happy. And not that it's hard work, because again, healing is hard work, but I'm really, really excited about it. Like, really excited. I don't know when it's going to be done, but keep up with me, because I promise you, you're going to want to read it, especially if you like the content that I'm currently making. But again, all of this is just one large process, and it's also really cool to see how my YouTube will feed into my book and my book will feed into my YouTube, and how all of this will collectively come together to reach this bigger goal, and also to see what twists and turns come into this journey, because right now I'm kind of doing it alone. And I know that I'm not supposed to be doing this alone. I just need to find my people. So the more that this reaches people, and the more people are like, oh my gosh, we have the same goal, I'm into this, let's do something about it, that's when other people are gonna be like, hey, so I actually have this opportunity, or hey, let's work on this, let's do this. And it's gonna be really cool to see how all of this pans out, right? But for right now, if I invest my energy into myself, into the things that I'm interested in, I'm going to attract the people that I need for this bigger mission. And I think that's how you should look at anything that you're trying to do in your in-between. It's just pick like 2 to 3 large things, maybe like one large goal, and then how can you do a couple things to feed into that large goal. And I want you to just experiment and experiment and experiment, and I want you to enjoy the process. I want you to stop setting pressure on hitting goals and like getting outcomes, because that doesn't matter. It does not matter. You're going to be okay if you don't hit it in the time frame that you decide, because clearly you're not ready for it if you didn't hit the goal. Just saying. Just saying. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. I have more coming your way. I promise it's gonna be so much good, so much fun. And yeah, I hope you have a great day. Okay, love you, bye. Mwah.